Hello. The goal of this lesson is solving one-step equations using multiplication and division. So make sure your notes page is labeled one-step equations, multiplication and division. And the basic rule that I want you to write down and remember is that when we're solving one-step equations with multiplication or division, to get the variable by itself, you're going to do the opposite operation. Let's take a look at what that means and looks like with some examples. In my first example, I have a negative 5x equals a negative 25. Now, I know that a negative 5x means negative 5 times x. So, because I am multiplying in this equation, to get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite operation, and the opposite of multiply is divide. Remember, equations, I look at them like a scale or a balance. I want this side to equal this side. To get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite. The opposite of multiply is divide. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other, or it won't remain equal or balanced. Now, this cancels out because I'm doing the opposite. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 just leaves me with an x. Now, on this side, I just need to solve. Negative 25 divided by a negative 5 is going to be a positive 5 because same signs are positive. So at this point, I am thinking that x equals 5. Remember that we need to check. So I'm going to plug in for x 5. Negative 5 times 5 should give me a negative 25. And I know it does because 5 times 5 is 25. Same signs positive, different signs negative. So a negative 25 equals a negative 25. That checks out. So in reviewing, when I multiply in the equation to get x by itself, or the variable by itself, I divide. Let's take a look at a problem where the equation shows division. In this problem, which you should write down in your notes as an example, we have the variable w divided by a negative 3 equals 12. So I'm going to start by dividing my equation so I can see both sides of the scale. Since w is being divided, then to get w alone, I'm going to do the opposite, and that's going to get rid of this negative 3. The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So I'm going to multiply by a negative 3. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So I'm going to multiply by a negative 3 over here to keep it balanced. Now let's solve and see what happens. Since I'm doing the opposite operation, these cancel out. Now, mathematically, the reason these cancel out is when I multiply this out, I get a negative 3w, 1 times negative 3 over a negative 3. So that leaves me with just 1w. 12 times a negative 3. Well, 12 times 3 I know is 36. Same signs positive, but I have different signs, so my 36 is going to be negative. Remember, our last step is to plug in and check. So I'm going to plug in a negative 36 for w over a negative 3. So when I divide a negative 36 by a negative 3, I end up with a positive 12. So that checks out. Again, remember, we do the opposite operation to get the variable by itself. Since I'm dividing, the opposite is multiplying. So we multiply it to find our answer. Let's take a look at a couple more examples. Here I have an equation. Again, notice how the variable can be on either side. I have 312 equals a negative 6m. I'm going to focus my attention on the side with the variable. And then I'm going to think, what's happening to the variable? In this case, it's being multiplied by a negative 6. So to get m by itself, I do the opposite. The opposite of multiply by a negative 6 is divide by a negative 6. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other so that it remains equal or balanced. I know that this is going to cancel out and just leave me with an m. Now I just need to solve 312 divided by a negative 6. So 312 divided by 6, I know my answer is going to be negative because of different signs. I'm going to start here. 6, how many 6s can I get out of 31? I get 5 because 5 times 6 is 30. I'm left with 1, bring down my 2. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I believe that m equals a negative 52. Remember, the way to be sure is the checking. And I know you want to skip this part because it feels like extra work, but I promise you it will save you in the long run. So 312 should equal a negative 6 times a negative 52. I'm going to work that out and make sure. So I'm going to go over here, 52 times 6, and look at that. I get 312. Since it's same signs, they're both negative, it's going to give me a positive 312. So that checks out. One more example and we're done. We're going to take a look at another division problem. In this problem, we have s divided by 17 equals a negative 2. This side has to equal this side, so I'm going to indicate that by dividing this down so that I can see. Then I look at my variable side. My variable is being divided. So the opposite of division is multiplication. If I divide one side by 17, I have to do the same and divide the other side by 17. This cancels out, and I'm left with an s. Negative 2 times 17 is going to be 34. Let me show you. It is. I have different signs. Same signs positive, different signs negative, so s equals a negative 34. Last step, plug it into check. Negative 34 divided by 17 should give me a negative 2. 34 divided by 17, let's check it out. And it works. This does equal a negative 2. So I have different signs negative. So, the basic rule in one-step equations, multiplication and division, do the opposite operation to get the variable by itself.